What's up, guys? This is Andrew Erickson here from the underscore YouTube video podcast, and I'm coming at you here with some breaking news talking about your boy Antonio Brown, the brand new Oakland Raider. Raider Nation is excited. Fantasy owners are excited. We're all kind of excited a little bit because Antonio Brown has finally found a landing spot here in 2019. It will not be another Le'Veon Bell saga where we won't see anybody play. Antonio Brown is going to play in 2019 in the, I almost said Steel City, in the city of black and gray and silver and what have you not. But I want to talk about this trade a little bit and see kind of how it kind of came to, and basically talk about what I think is going to happen, some replications of this trade, and just, Mr. Big Chest himself, So going back to AB, focusing on this trade and basically what I think happened after that great intro by the Childish Gambino in Oakland. So essentially, I think that the Steelers organization actually was tied pretty closely to the Raiders in terms of making this trade happen. Essentially, we saw last year the Raiders made two trades with the Pittsburgh Steelers for wide receivers specifically. Ryan Switzer was traded from Oakland to Pittsburgh later in the offseason, right before the fourth preseason game. And Martavis Bryant, a Steeler receiver, was then traded to Oakland for a third-round pick. And ironically, they can now get that third-round pick back from the Steelers organization for Antonio Brown and another fifth-round pick. So a third and fifth for Antonio Brown, and the Raiders are probably going to make Antonio Brown the highest-paid receiver in the NFL. But I mean, come on, dude. With pecs like that, you have to pay him the money. The dude is yoked. He's taking friggin' 225s on the incline for a ride. Business is booming in the Oakland Raiders facilities today. So back to Antonio Brown. So what do you do with him in dynasty football, for example, fantasy football? I have Antonio Brown. I've made it quite well known that I have Antonio Brown in fantasy football, and I literally cannot try to get rid of him harder. Most people are kind of not as high on him, but I'm trying to get into, the optimism. People are like, oh my God, he's on a new team, this could be good. And, of all the landing spots, I mean, Oakland is probably better than Buffalo, I would say. Josh Allen versus Derek Carr. I would say, because we've seen Derek Carr at least play at an MVP level. He had that one really great season, but it was 2 years ago before he broke his leg. And he's been able to perform at a pretty high level. So I do like that in essence, but it's a little concerning that we have, Derek Carr is not the best. It's just not going to be as good as it was in Pittsburgh. It's just not. He was getting so many targets in Pittsburgh. I don't see that happening again in Oakland necessarily. Even though he is the number one wide receiver there, I just don't necessarily see it. It's not going to be as good. And most people know that. Most people register that. And that's why it's hard to get rid of in Dynasty for a good price. I tried trading him for David Johnson. That didn't work. I tried, packaging him. That didn't work. And you don't want to necessarily sell him for cheaper. In that case, you might as well just hold him. So that's the thing. If someone will buy him from you, this would be the time to sell, because this is when people are probably most optimistic before they really, dive into the research and really strategically think about Antonio Brown, how is he actually going to do? But this is a better way, try to sell high on Antonio Brown now in Dynasty if you have him in Dynasty. But what does it mean for his other brethren? Obviously, he's going to help Derek Carr, Jordy Nelson, get those bench numbers up, Arnold Schwarzenegger style. You got to get those chest pecs pumping. So what do you mean for Jordy Nelson and Derek Carr? So this definitely is a plus for Derek Carr on many, many different scenarios. I mean, he's literally getting the best wide receiver in the NFL on his team. So that's an automatic boost. And the way that quarterback works, just look how happy he looks in this picture. This is Antonio Brown's on your team. He's like, really? Oh, yeah. So Derek Carr, the ultimate winner here across all the players. He's going to improve. We look at a guy like Patrick Mahomes last year. He was good. Obviously, he's a good quarterback, but it helps that he has really good weapons. So now they have given Derek Carr literally the best wide receiver in the NFL. So you need to take that into consideration with Derek Carr, as a guy you target later in drafts, at the quarterback position. Quarterback, you can basically do anything. I have Derek Carr in a Dynasty League, and I'm like, all right, sick. there we go. I have Patrick Mahomes too. I'm probably going to play Derek Carr. But again, it's a plus side for Derek Carr for sure. And then looking at Jordy Nelson, so I found an interesting tidbit of knowledge. It's a little stat nugget for you guys. So Jordy Nelson last year with Amari Cooper was actually averaging 12 fantasy points per game. Without Amari Cooper, he averaged 9 fantasy points per game. So he was actually performing better, even though he had a smaller target share with Amari Cooper than without Amari Cooper, where he had a higher target share, but he was less efficient. That's just because the offense as a whole was just worse. Derek Carr was worse. Derek Carr was just dumping the ball off because there's no one to go too deep down the field. Jordy Nelson, I literally tweeted out after the Antonio Brown trade, after I found out this morning, as I was trying to recover from my daylight savings hour, moving forward. And essentially, I was like, oh, this is terrible for Jordy Nelson. I really tweeted, like, throw up emoji, Jordy Nelson dynasty, like, bleh. But then I thought about it, and I was like, you know what? Maybe this is, like, a super, super, super buy low. Like, super, super, super buy low. You think, like, if, Jordy Nelson has succeeded in a lot of offenses when there's been other guys around him. In Green Bay, he had Devontae Adams, James Jones, Greg Jennings, and whether he was the number 1 or number 2, that's whoever's opinion, whatever. But he was always better when there was another guy around him that was just somewhat, decent or somewhat like a good receiver. Last year he had Cooper, and he was better last year with Cooper. And then when Cooper left, he had to become like the main guy, and it just was worse. It was just not as good. Marcel Aitman, get at me, bro. Like, Marcel Aitman, do you look like that? No, I don't think so. So I like Antonio Brown to the Raiders for Jordy Nelson. I think that it actually may help him efficiently, and he is basically like, everyone is so low on him right now. Like, he's kind of a forgotten guy, and realistically, it's like, you go back like 2 years, I think it's like 2015, Jordy Nelson and Antonio Brown are the top 2 wide receivers in fantasy football. Like, I mean, obviously we're into 2019, so it was a little while ago. Like, Calvin Johnson was still playing, yada, yada, yada. But, like, dude, if John Gruden invents a time machine, dude, like, they are going to explode in 2019. Which brings me to my other topic. I tweeted out, will the Raiders win more games than the Pittsburgh Steelers? And everyone was like, no, Pittsburgh's going to win, blah, blah, blah. I was like, dude, like, the Pittsburgh is just getting worse. Like, you cannot tell me that Pittsburgh is up on the ascending. How? Explain that to me. Their defense is super slow. Their offense is just losing weapons. Who's going to want to go there? Like, I'm not sure, like, free agency, I want to go to Pittsburgh. That sounds like a great place to play. It's like, no. Like, Pittsburgh is the most overrated team in the NFL. They have the most talent. They had Le'Veon Bell, Antonio Brown, Ben Roethlisberger, and they couldn't do anything. They got their butts beaten by the Patriots in the AFC Championship game because they ran zone defense, because they ran linebackers on slot receivers. And they continue to do that even last year. Keenan Allen, must I remind you, it's just like ridiculous how much talent they wasted. And everyone talks about Mike Tomlin. He's like, whoa, we won a Super Bowl. The year he won a Super Bowl was the only year that Tom Brady didn't play the entire season. Yeah, that's why they won. Because the Patriots didn't make the playoffs. Because they didn't have Tom Brady. Mike Tomlin has literally never done anything when Tom Brady's been playing in the AFC. So, like, get at me, bro. Like, they lost against the Packers. Sure, he's been to Super Bowl. So is Mike McCarthy, and he got fired. Mike Tomlin, you're next, bro. You're next. It's coming for you, dude. So, again, those are some of the points that I want to talk about when I'm talking about Antonio Brown. He's on the Raiders now. It's big news. And, again, the last thing was Jordy Nelson. Derek Carr was good when he had, Amari Cooper, but he had Crabtree. Everyone, forgot about Crabtree. Like, Crabtree go back to the Raiders? You got Crabtree, Nelson, and Antonio Brown. Oh, my God. Derek Carr, QB1 overall. Come at me, bro. Derek Carr. You got to love it. Derek Carr is going to be amped up. And, who knows? Maybe they sign Le'Veon Bell. How nuts would that be? They basically put Pittsburgh in Oakland. And they're going to put it in Vegas. They're going to have so much attitude. They'll have so much money to gamble with. Oh, my God. It'll be awesome. So those are just some of the takeaways that I got from this trade. What do you think about the trade? Leave a comment in the section below. And then I'll also leave you guys on this here. So I did a podcast recently with my buddy, Andy Nason. He's on Twitter. If you follow at gridironexperts.com, you'll see the link in my bio. But we talked about Antonio Brown's mustache a little bit. So here's the clip from Antonio Brown that he brought up that I thought was pretty funny. So I'll share it with you guys here.
Did you see the mustache? He might have a disease.
Yep. So Antonio Brown, mustache is essentially a disease. You know, he's the man behind the mustache is Antonio Brown. So we will now outro with some Childish Gambino because now we have a brand new wide receiver in Oakland. Later, guys.